Hi everyone, I'm Ellie and welcome to Code of the Future. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a rock, paper, scissors game in Python. So the first thing we're going to do is open up PyCharm, which is the IDE that we have been using throughout our tutorials. And as you can see, I've created a rock, paper and scissors Python file ready to start coding the rock, paper, scissors game that we're going to be doing today. So the way we're going to make a rock, paper, scissors game in Python is by playing against the computer. Which is what's great in Python is that you can, make these games where you can be interactive with the computer as well as yourself. So you can play a game, like in this sense, you'll choose rock, paper or scissors, and then the computer will also randomly generate a rock, paper or scissors, and it'll tell you whether you've won or not. And what's great is this game can go on forever. It can go on as long as you want it to be. So we're going to dive straight in now and show you exactly how to create a little rock, paper, scissors game in Python. So the first thing I'm going to say is just rock, paper, scissors game. Again, if you've watched my other tutorials, you'll know we need to import certain modules into Python for us to be able to use them in our code. So the first thing we're going to do is import the random module, and from the random module we're going to import randint. So we're just going to say from random import randint. But the reason why we import the random function is because we want Python to generate a random output. So the computer will generate a random output of rock, paper or scissors. And that's what's great about this game as well. You learn about the random module. So now we've imported the relevant modules, we need to define the moves for our player. So obviously we are the player, so what we're going to say is moves for the player. Okay, so you'll know in rock, paper, scissors there are 3 moves: rock, paper and scissors. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a list called moves. So moves equals, and then we're going to say rock, paper and scissors. So all we've done here is created a list with rock, paper and scissors in this list, and we've defined it as moves. Again, if you're unfamiliar with assigning variables and assigning lists, there are videos on my channel that will help you with doing these kind of operations in Python. So now we've done that, we're going to start moving on to a loop, and this loop will basically mean that we can play this game over and over again. So we're going to say while true. So this is the first time that I've used the while loop and the true boolean. I say boolean a little bit Yorkshire, so just bear with the Yorkshireness for a second. What's worth noting is that true must always be spelt with a capital T. If I was to make it lowercase, there's an error straight away. So what we're saying is while true, and then we're going to put something in this loop, and Python will say, okay, while everything in this loop is true, we'll do these commands. So the first thing we're going to say is while true, and remember your colon, because we need a colon after loops. If you've watched the video on loops, we're going to say let the computer equal moves. Now this may seem a little bit complex to start with, but I will explain what we're doing once I've written everything out. Randint from 0 to 2. Okay, so what this is doing is it's saying let the variable computer, in this sense our computer is the person we're playing against, and it's saying let that equal to moves, which we have defined up here already, and then we have these square brackets. Now if you remember from my previous video about lists, what we can say is, say if you had a list called my list equals 1, 2, 3, we can easily obtain a particular index from that list. So we can say my list and then say 0, and what that does is that will return the first element in that list. And similarly, if we said 1, that would return the second element, and similarly 2, that would return the third element. So that's just a little bit of side kind of knowledge that we did previously. So we're just going to comment that out, but keep it there just to explain, what's going on. So the computer variable is assigned to moves, which is this list that we have here. Now, inside these square brackets, we have randint 0 to 2. Essentially, it means Python is going to take a random integer from 0 to 2. And this is where the random module comes in, because we want Python to take a random sample from rock, paper or scissors. So here, if the random integer output was 0, it would take rock, because that would be moves 0. Similarly, if it took 1, it would take paper, and similarly if it was 2, it would take scissors. So what this is doing is it's creating a variable where Python will return a random output of either rock, paper or scissors. And that's exactly what we want, because we don't want the computer to be biased. We want it to be completely random, because when you're playing a game against a real person, you've got no idea what kind of, what moves they're going to play. So we want it to be you know, completely random. So we're just going to get rid of that now. Okay, so we've got this. We've got the computer equals either rock, paper or scissors. So now we've given the computer either rock, paper or scissors, we're going to input some commands for us to, you know, for it to be a little bit more interactive for us as a user. So we're going to say player equals, and the player obviously is us. We're going to say input. If you remember from my previous video on the mini project, then you'll know exactly what the input does. Rock, paper or scissors. And then we can put or end the game. So what we're saying here is the player variable, which is obviously us, will equal to the input that we put when Python asks us this. So if I just run this Python file now, here you'll notice it says rock, paper or scissors or end game, and obviously I could put rock, but because we haven't defined anything underneath, I could say rock and then it'll go through the loop again. So obviously that's great, that's all we need at the moment, but we need to add a little bit extra on the bottom to make sure we can start playing the game. So that's great. So we've got computer will be a random selection of rock, paper or scissors, and player, which is us, will equal whatever we decide to input. So now we're going to start comparing, you know, what happens if computer equals player, then it'd be a tie, or if computer chose rock and we chose scissors, then obviously rock would win. So we're just going to have to consider all of those factors. So the very first thing we're going to consider is if the player decides to, say, end the game. Now, something that we're just going to add on, and it's something that's actually quite neat really, is just on here on the input, we're just going to put dot lower. Now I appreciate I've just gone from here to here, but what this dot lower does here is it will lowercase any input you give into this particular input here. So you may end up putting rock in capital letters, and to you rock capital letters is the same as lowercase letters. So we just need to kind of factor in what would happen if you spelt rock with a capital R or spelt it all capital. So what this dot lower does here is it just lowercases anything you put into the input. Okay, so that's just worth noting, just add the dot lower there. So back to this, if the player decides to end the game, so we say if player equals end the game, which is what obviously it says here, then we're going to print the game has ended. It's great that we've got this if, but what we need to remember is we need to break this while true loop. So we're just going to put break here. And okay, so I'm just going to show you what this does, and also I'm just going to add a little space bar just in here, just because it makes when Python asks you that, it makes the code look a little bit nicer. So we're just going to run this, and it says here rock, paper or scissors or end the game. So I'm going to say end the game, and we'll click enter, and there we go, the game has ended. So what this break command does here is it breaks this while true loop, so it stops it completely. Okay, so we've got that, we've got, you know, if someone decides to end the game, then they can end the game, the while true loop breaks, and the game is over. So now we're going to consider exactly what happens if you win, you lose, you tie, all those kind of combinations. So we're going to say elif. Now elif is just an extension from if, so here we say if player equals this. Elif is kind of like or if this happens as well. So let's say elif player equals computer, and again we need the double equals here because we are not assigning player to equal the variable computer. So obviously if the player and the computer both choose the same, then we know it's a tie. So we'll say print tie. Okay, perfect. So that's one combination considered. The next we're going to say is elif player equals rock. Okay, so we'll have two outcomes from this. Either we choose the rock and the computer then chooses scissors, in which case we win, or if the computer chooses paper and we choose rock, obviously because we are choosing rock, then they win. So we need to consider these two factors. So we're going to say elif player equals rock, then if the computer equals paper, which we know means it will win, we're going to say print you lose. So, you know, we could leave it at you lose, but we can take it one step further and tell the player exactly what the computer chose. We're just going to put it in here for a nice little kind of touch. So we're going to put a comma and we're going to say computer. So this will be whatever the computer has chosen, and we're going to say beats, and we're going to say player. So what this will do is it'll print you lose. It will say paper beats rock, because obviously our player is defined as rock and the computer is defined as paper. That's if we lose. Now we can say else. So obviously if you remember from the if statement, you'll have if and then you'll also have else. So if it doesn't happen, then this will happen. So else, we will say print you win. Vice versa, we will say player beats computer. Okay, so we're going to run this Python file and show you what happened. So we've run it and it says rock, paper or scissors. Okay, so let's say I'm going to choose rock. There we go. It says you lose, paper beats rock. So we know that in this particular instance the computer has chosen paper, so we lose. Again, we can play it again and say rock, tie. The computer also chose rock. Let's say rock again and we win. So we've considered the case for rock. Now we're going to consider the case for paper. So we're going to copy exactly the same as what we've done there, and we're going to say elif player equals equals, and we're going to say paper. We're going to say if computer, can't spell computer, you're going to say if computer. Now this time we're going to say scissors, and we know that scissors beats paper, so we're going to say print you lose, and again we'll do the whole computer beats player. Okay, and then else we will print you win, and again player beats computer. Again, this here is identical to what we've done here, but the difference is we have rock paper here and we have paper scissors here. So we need one last one, and you know, for ease we could just copy this here. You know, it's a bit lazy, but you'll figure out when you start coding in Python that a lot of Python code and a lot of coding in general is just copying and pasting things and making it work for you. So the final situation is when the player decides, because we have rock here, paper here, we're going to choose scissors. So if the computer chooses rock, you lose, computer beats player. Again, you win, player beats computer. So here we have the 3 different combinations and whether you win or you lose. So we have the different combinations. Now finally we need to just consider what would happen if someone spelt rock, paper or scissors wrong, because you may spell scissors wrong. Scissors is quite a complicated word to spell actually, so you may spell scissors wrong. So we're just going to put else here and we're just going to say print check your spelling. Okay, so let's see how this runs. So we're just going to click stop the Python code running from before. We're going to click run. Here we go, rock, paper or scissors, or end the game. Okay, so what should we choose? Let's go for paper. Okay, we won this time. Okay, perfect. Let's go again. Scissors. Tie. Okay, let's spell scissors, but let's spell it wrong, so with 3 S's. Check your spelling. Okay, spell it wrong. Let's go rock. You win. Cool. Or let's say, okay, I'm a bit bored playing rock, paper, scissors against the computer now. Let's end the game. And there we go. The game has ended. Perfect. So there we have it. We've created a rock, paper, scissors game against the computer, which I think's pretty cool. I think as a beginner, it was one of the first things that I learned, and I was pretty amazed that I could play this game against a computer and win, lose, you know, draw. It's just a nice way of incorporating so many different things that you can use in Python. If you like the video, then please like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you all in the next video.